All right. Today, NetDocs data loss prevention, or DLP, the least used NetDocs module. I'm not saying it's not the most important or important. I'm just saying for the 550 firms that we've set up NetDocs for, I feel like we've rolled this out around 5 times. Before we get started, and we're actually going to jump back into the PowerPoint here, but before we get started, let's go over some NetDocs updates. And let me come over actually to NetDocs downloads first. I want to point out, and actually a client of mine pointed this out. So NetDocs Office 4.3, which was released 2 weeks ago. 4.3, there are a couple of new features. I'm more looking at the fixed issues that people are running into. So, um, just a lot of maybe check in, check out issues and things like that have been coming along. So this is a lot of bug fixes. So maybe it's a reason to push it out. Okay. Especially if you have users complaining about issues with documents not checking in or checking out, or just, and this is on the Windows side of things, issues at all. 4.3 is out there. Also a new registry key. So we're actually going to update our batch file. So let me just show you where that is. Installing NetDocuments on a Windows computer. All right. NetDocs is beating us. We should, but at least it's good that we're right underneath them. So we go over how to set up NetDocs on a Windows computer. And then we do link to our most up-to-date batch files. What do the batch files do? They a lot. If you actually download this and open it up into a text viewer, you're going to see all the changes they make. But we figured out, or Jeff did at my office, how to deal with that stupid NetDocs local network access. Jeff figured out how to set that up with a registry key for Edge and for Chrome users. So we're going to update that and some other features as well. So that's the big new thing with NetDocs. NetDocs tips here. I did an AI assistant training and someone was like, how does it actually know how to answer questions? So I talk about that. I think we actually have an ND Sync training coming up a little bit later. So how to deal with file path issues on ND Sync. And then if we come over to events right here on our webpage, we're doing the DLP training right now. The next webinar I am doing with Julian, and we're going to go over how law firms are using NetDocs Pattern Builder Max. That's a great webinar because I'm going to shut up and let Julian drive. And for firms that want Pattern Builder Max implementations, I've been working with Julian to get those rolled out for the firms. And then we got an office hours coming up at the end of the month. And then I'll just leave it at this: NetDocs on mobile devices. So that's what we got coming up for us. Now, let me jump back into the slideshow here. What is DLP, or data loss prevention, used for? Okay. So NetDocs, at first there was NetDocs, okay? And then there was ND Mail, and that was an add-on. And then finally NetDocs was like, we're just bundling ND Mail with NetDocs. So some of you oldies, you know that you had those separately. If you've gotten NetDocs in the past 5 years, you just considered ND Mail part of NetDocs. That's kind of what is happening to the module DLP, or data loss prevention. Released as a separate module, and now it's kind of being given to everyone. Not everyone, but I would say maybe 50% of the new firms we roll out have DLP included in the package. And people are like, yeah, what about that DLP thing? And I'm like, well, do you know what it is? They're like, no. They're like, should we implement it? And my answer is, I don't know. Let's talk about some scenarios here. Okay. So what could you use DLP for? Paralegal, and honestly, it wouldn't be the paralegal, it'd probably be the attorney. Accidentally emails client records, tax returns, financial records, bank statements, which are financial records, um, using email copy when they should always use deliver a secured link. Okay? Because deliver a secured link or email link is secure, email copy is not. Departing associate downloads hundreds of documents before their last day. This one is, I don't know if I actually include this in here more than I think about it. I mean, you could include it in here, but we'll have to talk about that one. Staff member syncs confidential M&A deal docs to personal laptop via ND-Sync. Maybe that's the more realistic one. Healthcare client or any of your clients be like, hey, what's your, mobile device policy? And can clients just copy anything that they want locally down there? Is there anything preventing that from happening? These were all the scenarios, except I'm a little debatable on two, although you could do it. I'll explain two at the end on how I would do it. I'm a little debatable on that, but the other ones, this is what data loss prevention was built for, okay? So when you get data, and we're going to actually, I know we're in a PowerPoint, which I hate, but once we get done with the PowerPoint, we're actually just going to go through step by step and set it all up. And we're also going to see if you have it, because I know some of you are like, do I have this or not? So when you get DLP, there's three default policies built in that you can apply. You could also create custom policies. Policy one, no system downloads. It blocks the ability for anyone to download something. So more download doesn't work anymore. Email copy doesn't work anymore. ND sync doesn't work anymore for this document or these group of documents. And if you open up a document from NetDocs, it goes into your Echo folder. That happens with DLP too, but the minute you close the document, it disappears from the Echo folder and is not on the computer. It's not in a recycle bin. There's no way to get to it. No other locations. So you can't move the document. It just stays where it is. And no additional access. You have this matter here. You've set up the security, but what is preventing a user from changing the security on any of the documents? If you put the no additional policy on that matter, the security is locked. So users can't go in there. Someone with admin rights can change security. Well, if you turn this on, they can't. These are the three default policies you get with data loss prevention. All right, when to use each policy. So the most common is the no system downloads, okay? This is like HR records, financial records, and we just don't want anyone to be able to bring those. We don't want anyone to take them off their computer. We're keeping them all in NetDocs. No other locations, trade secrets, M&A deals, stuff like that. No additional access. Documents where even an admin shouldn't have the ability to change the access to it. Okay. Regulatory submissions that cannot be modified after filing. I mean, you could still that too. I mean, is if you have it locked, yes. So that okay. So there, yeah. Then it is true. So you have something that's basically locked from anyone changing it. Well, a NetDocs admin could go in there and change it. But if we put that policy on, then we've locked it down. All right. So common policy scenarios. Again, the reason I'm going so much into this is because I'm trying to avoid the, hey, I have this implemented. Well, I'm more of like, do you need to implement it, or these things that are coming up here? So medical records, things like that. I mean, let's just go on from here because I think we've kind of covered that. This is the warning. Okay. Because this is the first thing I did when I set up DLP. Now I did it for our optimal cabinet, playing around with it. If you set a cabinet default policy, every document in that cabinet is affected immediately. What we are going to do is set up a profile-based policy today. Okay. But there is a cabinet. If we set it up for the cabinet, like again, and this would be, I have a partner's cabinet and no documents can leave NetDocs. You would set it cabinet wide. Okay. But you have to be very careful about that because if we have, let's say, our client cabinet, we're not setting it cabinet wide. We're going to set up a profile attribute or modify an existing profile attribute. Like maybe we have a matter that has to be locked down. We'll lock down that matter using DLP. We're not going to do it cabinet wide. All right, what it doesn't do. There's really no reporting dashboard. I mean, we can go in and see what we've set up, okay? But we don't really have reporting. If someone tries to open up something and it's blocked, I mean, it shows up in the activity logs, but I'd kind of debate on how important that even is. There's no threshold-based blocking, and I think there's some confusion there. So I can't say, hey, after 200 documents, turn on DLP. It's just turned on or off. There is no content scanning. Now, this is where I'm going to get, this will feed into the webinar in 2 weeks. So there's no content scanning, but there is content scanning in the AI profiler that NetDocs has just released. So ideally, and this is what we're all excited about doing, is coming up with a policy where we can have NetDocs recognize, is there any personal identifiable information in this document? That be a profile attribute. That your whole system is scanned. As you're saving in documents, they're scanned, and a yes appears. And once that yes appears, the DLP policy gets applied. This is what I think will change DLP, because right now we're kind of limited to, hey, a human being thinks this document should have security on it, a DLP policy on it. This is on the individual document, so we have to decide that. Now on client and matters, we're deciding it there. But if we can add the AI profiler to find out information, then we could apply a DLP policy to it. Print from native apps may work. So you can block the NetDocs print, but if someone can get that document on their computer, they can still print it. So you kind of have to be careful there, is where you don't allow them to open up the document locally, then they can't print, but that's there. And people can screenshot stuff. I mean, that's always the case. So if you have a document that can't leave the system, but I have one of these and I can take a picture, then kind of get it out of the system. All right, what can it block? So these are the rules that you can create, and there's a new one, okay? And I just didn't have it in the slide, but I could use that as there. So attach document, you can block email copy. So basically in that case, email link would work, but email copy doesn't work. You could also block deliver a secured link. So if you're doing, these right here, then email copy blocked. If you're blocking deliver a secured link, well, then you can't get the document out of there. Echoing. So when you open up a document, it echoes locally. You can prevent that from happening. No downloading documents to a computer. You can stop that from happening. No copy, no move, no add to collab space. So you can't share it externally. Modify access, so you're locking the ability to change the security. The ND print's blocked, but the local isn't blocked. Block the ability to open an Office online. Block the ability to send a DocuSign. Block the ability to be add to set builder. The new one, which I think some of you will find important, is block the ability to be added to the NetDocs AI assistant. The NetDocs AI assistant, which we're doing a webinar on soon, is NetDocs AI tool to query documents, and you could turn on a DLP policy saying, hey, nothing here can be added to the NetDocs AI assistant to query any information. So these are all the things that can block, and you can set up a policy that has 4 of these things in here. You could create your own policy that has 4 of these things in here. NetDocs comes with 3 already created policies. All right. So sorry about the slideshow. I just felt there was more information to go over. Let's start from the beginning. Do you have DLP? So we're going to come over to hi, your first name. We're going to come over to admin. Once there, next to the words NetDocs admin console, we will click on these 3 lines. I will click on the thumb mark to keep this opened. Let's go to information and settings, and we'll click on information. Do you have a green check mark here indicating that you have data loss prevention? If you do, then you have it. If you don't, you do not have it. If we come over now to the Security Center, we can click on data loss prevention here. This is where you set everything up, okay? Now, classifiers are used on a per document basis, okay? So once you've enabled DLP, there is a way to just assigning, hey, this document's highly confidential. And if that's the case, we can come over here that we're going to do priority 1. And I'll show you what policies get applied there. If it's confidential, priority 2, and restricted is going to be priority 3. These are just that could be, these were built to be assigned on a per document basis. And then we have policies here. Okay, so let's open up this one. No additional access. Okay, so this is the one that this is canned in here with NetDocs. And since we've added the classification here, so if someone says this is highly confidential, no additional access is applied. Okay, then we have no other locations. That's number 2. So if someone says that this is confidential, this gets applied. No system downloads. That's right here is the restricted here. And then prevent copy of documents in emails. This is a policy I created. Let's just delete this and create that. Let's create our own policy here. Stop document downloading. We can delete those as well. So this is what you have in your system right now, okay? And this is on the admin side of things. So classifiers, that's where honestly, you don't need to use classifiers, and I don't have a lot of people doing it. But if a user on a document said highly confidential, then this policy would get applied, okay? But I usually end up skipping the classifiers and I just set up policies. So create policy, and we'll call this no external email. And then under the description, no one can email via email copy or deliver a secured link. All right. I'm not going to worry about classifiers. Is this enabled? Is it an option to be chosen? Leave it there. So now I'm going to come over to select here. What am I blocking? Deliver a secured link. Okay. What am I blocking? Attach document. Now, again, I'm going to keep this very specific here. So these are the things that I want blocked. And then I will hit add. No external email. So we've created now a policy. All right. So someone's going to ask here, what is MPIP policy mapping? I've never dealt with this before. In your Office 365, if you're using Microsoft Purview to protect certain information, any of those policies that you created would show up here. Okay. But I've never had anyone do that. And then let me just come over to the gear here. Oh, there's no options there. So really all we can do here is set up policies. You can see the classifiers. You could create a classifier, but I don't really use them. It's mainly the policies where I create a rule on what I want to block and then MP policy mapping. All right. So let's actually use this, and we're going to do this on a per document email, a per document basis. Okay. Again, we could do this on a per cabinet basis, but for the example here, let's just go with it. I've created a policy, no external email. Okay. So how would I implement this? On a per document basis, allowing each user to choose. Under profile attributes, I'm going to come over to create, and I'm going to put external email allowed. Okay. So I'm going to create a profile attribute. Okay. I'm going to use a lookup table. All right. And then I'm going to hit save here. And so we've got external email allowed. And then I'm going to add an option. And I'm going to choose the option of no. So we're saying when we say no here, do not allow us to externally email via deliver a secured link or email copy. All right, that's part one. Part two, I'm going to go to the cabinet. I'm going to open up the cabinet. And under profile attributes, I'm going to check the box here. So now this is available in my cabinet, and then I'm going to hit submit. And now I've got to wait for this to save. All right. Now, I don't have this in my steps. I just assume maybe I'll add it to my steps here. Because I've got a blog post going over this, but I think the proper thing to do is hit save. Maybe you don't have to do that. All right, the next step here. Because I have DLP, this section now has appeared. Okay. This section did not exist without DLP. All right. Now, if we use these two right here, we're saying this is for the entire cabinet, not per document, for the entire cabinet. Again, would never really use this on a client cabinet. I would use this on an HR cabinet, a partner's cabinet, something that was really, really like needed to be secure, but I wouldn't put it out there on the entire client cabinet. For client cabinets, we're going to use the profile to actually secure. So what I'm going to do here is choose external email allowed. That's the profile attribute that we're using here. And then go to lookup table. Oh, so I guess I could have just gone here before. I didn't have to go to save. So the instructions are right. So I'm going to hit OK. All right, it opens up the profile attributes. You can't get to this from the normal profile attributes. You must follow my steps here. So now we're going to open this up, and then we have our DLP classification, which I'm not using. It's one of these three things here. What I'm going to do is choose the no external email, and then we'll hit save. Okay, so when we choose now no external email, we need to see if this will work. Okay, so we've set everything up. All right. So I'm going to go over, let me just go back into it to make sure that it's okay. Let me make sure it's saved. Okay, there you go. So it is correct here. All right, let's come over. I'm going to open up this matter now. We'll switch it over to list view. Um, we're going to take borrow pledge agreement in 3 places. Let's come over to the word more, and we're going to hit edit profile. All right. And this is where I was like, we probably are going to have to log out. So let me go over here. Let's log out. Because I did this all in one setting here. Okay, great. In fact, we'll just close. All right. Now, edit more. We're going to come over to edit profile. External emails allowed. And I'm going to choose here no. All right. And then let's hit update. So we're saying here, and we know because we created it, there's a DLP policy here, external emails allowed, but other people don't know that. So now let's click on email copy. Can't. All right. More. Let's click on deliver a secured link. Can't. Let's click on email link. Now I'm allowing email link because email link is internal. Email link works. I just don't have this set up yet with. Why is that happening? Because I didn't go. This is my new training computer, so, and we did not check turn on desktop email integration because someone did not run my batch file. All right, so now it works. So that was us going in, creating a policy in DLP. Again, that policy that we created basically came over here and allowed us to choose which items we wanted to block. So attach document, download, echo, ND sync. We have 3 policies built in. We could create our own. Then we created a profile attribute. We gave it some value. So in that sense, we said no was the value of the email copy. Went into the cabinet, applied that policy here, and then we said, if this is no, mark this. The other way that you would do this is if you went in, let's just look at this again, because here would be the other way to do this. All right, so what we're saying here is use this. Well, what happens if we came over and we said use matter? Okay. And actually, we got to use the right matter here. So we said over here, use matter. Or you could do use client because maybe you have, maybe client is the better example. The client's by far the better example because usually a client's going to have the policy here. So a client has a policy. You've created that policy, and then you can go in here and you can say, hey, for this client, no external emails or for this matter. That's how you would set it up. So then anything in that matter has that actual policy. All right. So again, that is how DLP is set up. It really comes down to, are you required to do this? And maybe so one, your clients are requiring you to do this. You work for an insurance company, you work for some sort of business entity that has people on this, and they ask you this question. Those are the options you have. Other option is we've got a partners cabinet, we have an HR cabinet, and we want to lock it really down in NetDocs. And I think this makes the case that if you have DLP, maybe you want to put those documents in NetDocs because granularly, everything else you're using, you probably can't do that. All right. But if you also don't have any of those scenarios, it's also okay to not use DLP. At Optimal, we have DLP turned on. We have a document that is called confidential. And if someone, and they shouldn't, but someone emails us a password, we should really delete that. I'm trying to think of what we deem as confidential. Anything that we feel is just confidential about the firm, I don't want it to ever flow out of our NetDocs. So we just hit yes there. I think we have, I forget what the rules are. I mean, it's more of any sort of financial, but we don't, our rule is just to automatically delete that. We ask that we don't get passwords sent and things like that. All right, let's open it up to questions. Okay, so first question, how much does DLP cost? I'm going to reword Sabrina's question to how much does DLP cost? So right now, and the only reason I know this is about to change is just because I've memorized it. All right. I'm being facetious here. So if you were to purchase NetDocs right now, there's the ND100, which is also referred to as Core. Well, there's just ND, then there's Core. Core is ND100 Core. So ND, that's just NetDocs. Then there's ND100, which is referred to as Core. That has NetDocs and collab spaces. Then there's ND200. ND200 has DLP. And that's a bundle where you get a lot of other stuff as well. And that's where you would get DLP. I don't know if they just sell it a la carte, like, hey, just add DLP here. I think they would want you to add ND100. And in that case, you would get other stuff like Workspace Security Manager, which we're doing a webinar on soon. And that's ethical walls. Like, I think everyone uses that. DLP is more of a use case, and I'm not sure. I can find out if you're interested in it. Yeah, I mean, again, when I do NetDocs migrations and I talk to people, they're like, well, we just want the client documents here. Oh, but the HR documents are in the client cabinet. Okay. I'm like, well, or I was like, why? But because this is how the other person set it up. I'm like, if we can't separate it out, at least we have the ability now to say, hey, I'm the Bayer law firm, and there's a Bayer law firm matter in the client cabinet. I could apply DLP to it, which makes it a little more secure than profile-based security. Or we could move that into its own cabinet and put all these DLP rules on it to really protect that document. Either way would work, but if you have everything bundled into one cabinet, that's helpful. It's just that the abilities of what I showed you there of locking it into the system, you can't really do that on a file server. And you can't do that in a lot of other programs that are out there. So that's an advantage. ND200 has DLP included in it. If you have an HR cabinet with security, you're fine. But look, let's flip it from this other side, okay? We have an HR cabinet with security involved, meaning only members of the HR group can get into the HR cabinet. All right? Oops, sorry. All right. I'm a member of the HR group. All right. What is preventing me from going in there and downloading everything? Because in what I'm supposed to be able to do, I'm supposed to be able to open stuff. And even if I don't have admin rights, as long as I have edit rights, when I click on the document, it's going into the echo folder. And then I could copy it out of the echo folder. DLP prevents you from doing that. So you can't even cheat there. Okay. So regular base security, we can have an HR cabinet. We can limit it to 2 people. I'm now thinking about this because in our NetDocs, we have an admin cabinet, which is limited to a group of people. But I'm like, we don't have DLP on. Why don't I have DLP on it? Because I should, because it's the sort of stuff that should be protected where it just can't leave there. So you can secure NetDocs by any group of users and cabinets. If you put DLP, you can really secure it. Like this, W2 goes into NetDocs and cannot leave NetDocs at all. We can see it. We can look at the information here. It cannot leave, and no one can change the security. All right, let's see in the Q&A. We recently implemented DLP for the AI assistants. We allowed on 2 cabinets out no AI assistants. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is a great question. Let me rephrase it. First off, I was worried that you're saying the AI assistant block didn't work because it just appeared. When I do these trainings, I go through and be like, what's changed in the manual? I'm like, oh, now the AI assistant is there. So since you created a profile attribute called, block AI assistant or whatever, and if you choose yes, then it's blocked. Well, you can't do any other profile attributes. So that's kind of the problem here. If we go back in to the cabinet, I basically have one data protection attribute, which in this case, I moved it to client matter. I mean, what you could do there, and so you can't add another one. What you would do is actually just secure it by the client, okay? But I don't, oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just thinking about this right here. Okay. So let's say here we have, so the thing here is that I'm going to block the AI assistant, but maybe I don't want to block it on every client. Okay. But I want, so we're going to move it over to client here. Okay. And then when we open up the lookup table, this is more of the question here. This is going to add it. This is going to go into an FAQ here. Here's a list of the clients. So I could go in here and there's the DLP policy. Is there a way now, because I don't want to have to go into each client and say no AI assistant. If I download the table, does this upload allow me to hit a DLP policy? All right, so here's the question. And first off, you can only run one protection attribute at a time. That is totally the case. So the answer, so first one is there's people have requested and it's in the works to have more than one. Like I gotta have as many as I want. Like if I choose this, like the perfect example is I have one that I want to spare for these documents not to be copied, and this other one, if I choose it, they can't be downloaded. Right now, we're limited to one, so you could come up with one policy, okay? We want it to be able to be available for more than one. It doesn't exist right now. My bigger question is, as a user, not as me, is let's say I've got this list of clients here. And can you answer, Jeremy, this question in the Q&A? How did you apply it to 30 clients? Did you go in 30 times and select it? What I was wondering, is there a way for me to download the table in Excel, fill out yes or protected on these 30, and then re-upload the table? And there doesn't seem to be. So that's going to be, I'm going to add that to my FAQ question, if there is a way to upload the table there. You went in 30 times. Okay. So is there a way, because we're limited in DLP to one profile attribute to secure. That's the limit right now. So can we, so on the DLP questions, one, can we have more than one? It's only one right now. Second question is there ability to mass upload a DLP table, which I'm going to find out the answers for. Because the fact that you had to go in 30 times kind of pisses me off. Like it's never the way it should be, that you had to go in, okay, no AI assistant, no AI assistant, no AI assistant. That's just annoying. Any other questions about this? All right. Well, look, will some of you like get me to help you set up DLP? Because I think that's always the problem with this, is like I've set up NetDocs, what, 540 times? I'm good at doing that because, even if I was completely clueless, after 100, you kind of figure it out. The DLPs, like I said, I've set it up like 5 times. So I love getting these use cases. And then the other thing is I like getting, now that I think about implementing it, what doesn't work, to kind of go back to NetDocs and see what we can try to improve. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Oh, new DLP manual right off the presses has been created. I completely updated it. It does have the new AI assistant. So we'll send this out tomorrow. But I've updated it with basically the well, I rewrote it because I thought it was crap. I was like, I can't believe, like, no one's going to figure this out here. So I rewrote it. I think it's a lot better now. And I've kind of gone through. I mean, there'll be the updated copy of the video will be here. Do you have DLP? Um, I've got a common use cases now, which is a question that we always get. What is the difference between classifier and policy? Because I had a hard time with that. If you're stupid like me, just ignore classifier and just say, we're just going to do policies here. But I try to explain why. MPIP mapping, what it actually does with Microsoft Purview. And then I actually go in here again and list the actual rules here. So we put the AI assistant on there so we can block. And then going over step by step how you could create like a confidential policy like that. I'll create the FAQ one so we can start building that out too. And yeah, but that new manual has been completely updated. I only have one blog post. I updated that blog post too, which is basically how to set this up. Yeah. Oh, great question here. Is the Echo folder populated with an open document, at least temporary? It is. Okay. It has to. I mean, that's how NetDocs works. So this is actually, I have a screenshot here. What happens with Echo behavior? Documents can be opened via ND Office and will appear in the Echo folder temporarily. So for example, I secured this ACH payment, good example of something I want secured, with a policy that won't allow echoing. Okay. So I secured it. I open it up on my computer. It is there. Okay. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as big of a Windows expert, if I have the PDF opened, I can't copy it in Windows, right? Like it's there, but I can't do anything with it. Like I couldn't copy it onto a flash drive because it's opened. And the thing is, the nanosecond I close that PDF, it is gone from the Echo folder. It just disappears. And it's not in deleted items. I could forensically not find it on the computer anywhere where it existed. So it will pop. If you set this up, you're like, well, it is showing up in the Echo folder. Well, it has to work. But once you close it, it's gone. I'll add that to the FAQ question as well. All right, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Email me any other questions you have, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.